Hey, what's up everyone, and welcome to the School of Personal Finance. Our 401k plans, they're going to be the biggest determining factor for a majority of Americans out there as to when we could retire, what retirement is going to look like. And it's one of the questions that I get most frequently is, how much should I contribute to my 401k plan? Should I choose traditional versus Roth? What should my allocation look like? Is it bad to take loans against my 401k? So I thought it would be a good idea to make a series of videos all about managing your own 401k plan for success. It really is the most important factor when we look at what retirement will be like. So I'm not going to do it all in one video because there's too much to cover. So in today's video, I'm going to go through the first three things, which is, should you even contribute to your 401k plan? Because a lot of them are crap out there, especially 403b plans as well. The second question is, how much should you contribute, if you should at all? And then the third thing is, should you contribute in your traditional 401k or your Roth 401k? And then in the next video, maybe the next two videos, we'll see how we go with time, but we'll talk about things like asset allocation, how much you should have in bonds versus stocks, and how to determine what's right for you, the different type of funds that are available, the expense ratios, how often you should make changes in them, things like loans, hardship withdrawals, what you should do with old 401ks, if you should roll a 401k into an IRA, and more. So we'll get started with this first video today. I hope that you find it helpful. All right, let's get to it. If this is your first time here, I talk all about getting out of debt, investing, retirement planning, financial planning as a whole, and just helping you become great with money. If you like those types of topics, then please subscribe to the channel. Also check out schoolofpersonalfinance.com. All right, so the first thing that we need to figure out is, should you even contribute to your retirement plan? And the first place that I look is to see if you have high interest rate debt. So like credit card debt, personal loans. If you're paying 20+% on any loans that you have or credit card debt, then the answer is no. You should not be contributing to your retirement plan at this time. First, you have to make sure to pay that off. So you have to go through a process like the debt snowball. You have to start looking at your income versus expenses and get out of that bad debt before you even think about starting to save for retirement. I've seen way too many times where people will contribute to retirement plans while they're carrying high interest rate debt, and they'll reach a point where they say, I have to take a loan against my 401k or my 403b, or I have to do a hardship withdrawal because I can't pay my bills right now. So to stop yourself from even getting to that point, don't contribute, pay off your debt first, focus on that. I have plenty of videos on how to go about doing that. All right, then the next thing I'll look at is, does your employer offer a match on your 401k contributions? If the answer to that is yes, then I want to go further. I want to see if it makes sense for me to contribute and get that full match. And if your answer to the first question about having high interest rate debt was no, then this 401k is looking very appealing, right? You might as well get that free money if your employer is giving you a match. So you want to understand exactly how the match works, because every corporation is different. Like some might have, they will give you 100% on the first 3% you contribute, which basically means they'll give you a 3% match. Then there are some that will give you 50% on the first 6% that you contribute. So you put in 6% and they will match you 3%. So you just want to understand how that works, and you want to make sure that you take full advantage of that match. It's a very smart thing to do. Now, one question that I get a lot is, I have a ton of student loan debt. Should I prioritize paying off the student loan debt, or should I go ahead and start contributing to my 401k? And my answer is always, it depends. It depends on your financial situation, what you have going on. But in the perfect world, I do think that you split it. I do think that you do both of them, especially if you're going to get a match in your 401k. But now if your student loan interest rate on the debt is very high, then you might want to prioritize that. So you want to list out all the student loans you have from the highest interest rate to the lowest interest rate, so you can prioritize what you want to pay off the fastest in there. But if they all have decent interest rates, like if you're paying 5%, 6%, then I would want to get a start on contributing to my 401k or my 403b plan. But there are other factors at play, like, do you have an emergency fund? Do you have any other bad debt that we need to prioritize over all of this? So you really do need to look at your overall financial picture. But in general, I do think it's a bad idea putting off saving for retirement. You really want to get that time value of money, the compounding. You want it to get working in your favor. But if you're paying 20+% on something else, you got to fix that first. All right, so then the next question that we want to tackle is how much should you contribute out of each paycheck? And now my default answer is always going to be as much as you possibly can. I've just seen it every single time when people walk out into retirement, the more money they have saved in these retirement plans, the happier they are skipping out that door. If you don't have that retirement savings, then you're stressed out. Then you're questioning, can I really do this? Do I need to get a part-time job? Right? So you want to have as much as possible in there. But of course, you want to live for the now as well. So there is a balance. You want to enjoy life, but you also really need to take care of yourself in retirement because nobody else is doing it for you anymore. Hopefully, Social Security will still be there, and it is the greatest annuity or the greatest pension that exists because you get that cost of living increase with Social Security every year based on inflation. But how much can you do? You need to look at your own picture. You need to have a very good understanding of your income versus expenses. You want to make a commitment on this. You want to push it a little bit and see how it feels. You need to inflict a little bit of pain to make sure that you're contributing enough. And if that means cutting back on some silly things, take the low-hanging fruit, knock it out, right? And put that money into a 401k plan. Your future self will really thank you. A great rule of thumb is to take your raise and just put it into your 401k plan. That way you don't even feel it. So if you get a 3% raise, just take that 3% and increase your 401k contributions. I always love playing with calculators and seeing what my future value could be, what my accounts could grow to in the future, depending on how the markets do. Like here's a pretty cool calculator that's online. It's just at calculator.net, and you could go in and plug in your numbers. So if we look at just a very simple example, let's say that you're just starting out and you have $0 saved for retirement. If you do $300 a month, so that's $150 per paycheck into a 401k, and if you're investing for growth, it's very realistic to have an 8% average return over the next 30 years. Just by doing that, your account value could grow to $422,565. So that $300 a month, it's not a tremendous amount. You want to be able to do more than that, especially as you get older. Maybe starting out, it sounds like a lot, like there's no way that I could afford that. But if you take an average, right, if you start now, just even getting going, doing $50 a month, $50 a paycheck, so $100 a month, whatever it is, just to get going, and then you increase it every year, it's very realistic to do that. And on this calculator, you could play around with other things as well. So you could do, what if your target is $1 million? Right? And you have a $0 starting amount, you're going to do 30 years at 8%. You need to contribute $709.95 each month to hit $1 million 30 years from now. So it's always fun to play around with this, and it motivates you. It gets you going because you can see that, wow, I really could save a tremendous amount of money over the course of my career, and I just need to get started now. It's so important to start early. So now, even though my default answer is to push it and put in as much as you can, you don't want to be in the situation where you have zero emergency funds, where you need to rely on credit cards to live, where you're just kind of getting by paycheck to paycheck, right? So you don't want to push it that far, but you definitely want to prioritize your 401k. And if that means driving not as nice of a car or not going out to dinner as much, those are smart decisions that you're going to thank yourself later on for. All right, and then the last thing we're going to talk about today is if you should choose the traditional or Roth option inside of your 401k or 403b plan. And now this totally depends on your individual tax situation. All right, so let's just quickly review what these different options mean. So with a traditional 401k, when you put money into it, you get a tax deduction in the year that you make the contribution. And this is the one that most people are familiar with because this has been around longer, and it's the default for people in most cases. So let's say, for example, you do $300 per paycheck. Even though $300 is going into your 401k, your paycheck is really only getting reduced by, let's say, $225. And that's because you are not getting taxed federal or state income tax on that contribution. So you have $300 going in, but you don't feel that much pain when you put it in, right? Your paycheck's only reduced by that $225 or so. All right, then the money grows inside your 401k for all those years. And then when you take it out in retirement, that's when you pay ordinary income taxes on all of the distributions. All right, so now I know many people that are retired that have all their money in traditional 401ks or traditional IRAs, and it's tough for them to take money out. They're hesitant because they don't want to pay the taxes on it. With a Roth 401k or a Roth 457 or a Roth 403b, when you put money in, it is on an after-tax basis. So if you do $300 per month or $150 per paycheck, then you feel all the pain. All that money is coming out. So you get taxed first and then you make the contributions. But the beauty about that is that you will never be taxed again on that money. So it will grow all of those years, and then when it comes out in retirement, it is completely tax-free. So when you take that money out later on in life, when you're retired, you don't even need to report it on your tax return. All right? So it's much easier to take that money out. And there's also a lot of tax strategies for later on in life where it's great to have that tax diversification, all right, where you could try to take advantage of the tax brackets and optimize your taxes later on in life. So it's great to have a combination of those. But now for you, if you are in a lower tax bracket, so I would consider the lower tax brackets to be the 10% bracket, the 12% bracket, the 22% bracket, sometimes even the 24% bracket, depending on what your current account structure looks like. In those cases, especially the bottom few, I think a Roth is a great way to go. Now, none of this is tax advice. I don't know anything about you. I'm not a CPA, okay? So take it for what it's worth. But if you're in those low tax brackets, I love the idea of doing Roth. And if you're in the higher tax brackets, then it makes much more sense to get the tax deduction now. So if you're making good money, the tax deduction, it is worth it right now, right? Because later on in life, you will probably be in the lower tax bracket once you are retired. And to find out what tax bracket you're in, you want to look at your taxable income. And you could just Google the tax brackets and the dollar amounts associated with them and pull up a chart of what they look like. So here's an example right here that I'm showing you. So if you're in that 22% tax bracket, then I think doing Roth over traditional is a good way to go. Or maybe you even decide that splitting it might be the right way to go, where you get some deduction in the current year and you defer some of it through the Roth, where you will have tax-free money going in retirement. So it's definitely a personal situation depending on where you're at, but I love Roth money. I think tax rates are going to be higher as we get older. Historically, they're low right now, so to take advantage of them and have Roth money, I think it's a very smart thing to do. All right, everyone, well, that is it for the first video of how to manage your 401k like a pro. We'll see how it goes. Maybe I'll be able to do this in just 2 videos. Most likely it will be 3 videos because I do want to do a deeper dive into asset allocation and picking the funds and all of that fun stuff. All right, so hope it was helpful. I'll see you again in the next one. Thanks.